Hello, my soul-seeking friends. It's Shanna. Thank you so much for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. Enlightening conversations with like-minded souls from around the world, sharing their journey of finding their light within, turning pain into purpose, and awakening to their true sense of soul. If you like what you hear, show me some love and rate, like, and subscribe. And consider becoming a Sense of Soul Patreon member, where you will get ad-free episodes, monthly circles, and much more. Now go grab your coffee, open your mind, heart, and soul. It's time to awaken. Today with us, we have Akash Sky. He is a spiritual coach and a self-aware author. Akash also has a career in Chartered Accountancy, where he specializes in financial investments. And he's joining us from the UK to share with us his journey of discovering his inner guru and his study in the Course of Miracles. Akash is also the author of the book Introducing You to Your Own Perfection, a guide to walking the path to peace with our inner guru. And I can't wait to hear about Akash's book, which he says was unexpected, which I can't wait to hear the story behind it. So please welcome Akash Sky. Akash, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here.
No, thanks for having me. But I really, really appreciate you having me on your show. I also saw that you had Neil Donald Walsh.
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness. Can you get any bigger than that? I mean, Neil Donald Walsh, he is an absolute legend, isn't he?
Very special. Yeah. I feel so blessed. I mean, I get to be student, to amazing teachers around the world and have amazing conversations with people like you.
How long have you been doing this for then?
So 4 years.
And you've done so many episodes, haven't you?
It's amazing because it's like I'm a student, constantly learning and expanding my consciousness. Yeah.
We're really happy on behalf of everyone that you do this for all of us. We really appreciate you. Yeah, so I definitely do as well, because our specific field is quite specific, isn't it? It's not really pushed out there in the world on, the Sky News or Fox News or BBC. It's not really out there like that. And so you providing this for us is just incredible. We all will appreciate this for sure.
Well, thank you very much. And I can't wait to hear about your book and who you are and where you're at physically, and also maybe just give us a little background about how you came into this.
Yeah, sure. So firstly, thank you for having me on your show. I really, really appreciate it. And my journey, it's come from a very ego-centered person for about 30 years, really focused on individuality, really focused on being this person, the ego self personality, and really believing that is who I am, And in them 30 years at the start were actually very painful. There was a lot of suffering in so many different ways. You suffer in the careers, you suffer in your relationships, you suffer with body symptoms, so many things happening because you've closed off from everything else. A trigger for me was when I lost my dad when I was 30, because I just looked at him and looked at me and thought, I don't know anything about what I am. I don't know anything about death and what life is about, what the journey is, what's the purpose. And it was actually that triggered me into this self-realization journey. I've got to say, it's been absolutely incredible from where I was to where I am now. And so I firstly got connected to a guru, and the guru is not a person, it's an essence of a guru. His name is Guruji. So my character Akash, my personal self, is a Hindu, and so he affiliates with Hinduism, and Guruji is the avatar or the reincarnation of Lord Shiva. And his body passed away. He left his body, shall we say, in 2007. And I connected to him in 2016 as an essence. And I've since then, since losing my own dad, there's that fatherly figure there that you can just surrender to. And then it's kind of a life of surrender where you give everything over, all the ideas of what you think that you are, where to go, what to do, who to be with. And it's that surrendered life that you give over. to that. And it doesn't have to be Guruji. You can choose whoever you want. Everyone has different symbols that they can use. For some, it's Jesus as well. It's something that I use because I was guided to study A Course in Miracles. So A Course in Miracles is a universal spiritual practice, and it's dictated to us by Jesus Christ. And, so you learn to love Jesus as well as a symbol that represents the non-ego part of you, the holy mind, you could say. And so, everyone has their own symbol that they use, but effectively what they all are is they're the holy mind that is eternal, the Holy Spirit. And it has so many different names, and my life now is really surrendered. It's surrendered. It's been about 8 years where I've been living a life of holy forgiveness. Every pain point in my life, I go inwards and I go into unification, and I follow the method of forgiveness through every pain point in my life. And that method of forgiveness is just completely covers you in joy, love, and peace, because you eventually get to a point where you're just serving. There's nothing to do here except serve, because the identity is just handed over. The whole of the body, mind. So mine's called Akash. Everything to do with Akash is handed over to that higher self. And again, you use the symbol that you like, and every morning I touch the feet of Jesus and Guruji. I say, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? I choose you, I choose nothing else. And it directs your life. It's a very peaceful life where you are healing your inner mind at every external pain point. You are uniting with the other. Where there seems to be differences externally between all of us, it's the great illusion of relativity that tells us that we're all different, when actually, we are all the same. And that's the journey so far, but there's a lot involved in that.
Right. So I share the same experience. I mean, my dad passed away 7 years ago,
Okay.
and that changed me too. And I often say that he gave birth to me twice, once
That's
in
it.
my life and once in his death.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, I've been told before that if you don't have a mother present for you in your life, you can look for on the other side, like Mother Mary or Mother
Of
Teresa.
course.
So I like that idea, as you mentioned, also seeing your guru.
Yeah.
And, actually really funny, because one of the songs that I love by Sean Johnson and the Wild Lotus Band, we were just talking about Sean Johnson, this one song he sings, Finding the Inner Guru.
Oh,
Yes.
that's what I've got on the cover of my book.
I know.
It?
And so that's one of the reasons why I thought about Sean this morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a coincidence by the
And
unified field. It sounds really good.
yeah.
And he's on Spotify, isn't it? So I'll listen to that. Is he on Spotify?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll listen
Oh,
to it
yeah.
after this, definitely.
Yeah, you'll like it.
Yeah.
The synchronicities that begin to add up when you pay attention
Yeah,
is
definitely.
truly amazing, and are a big part of what have led me. When you said there's a lot in between, right, of all the things you just said, I'm sure there was many signs and synchronicities that was leading you along the way.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to put most of it in the book, but there's only so much you could write about, and I think what's really interesting is there's actually so many different methods that the world actually offers in order to go into self-realization. So quite typically there's the 3 yogas from the Bhagavad Gita. So you got the karma yoga, you got the bhakti yoga, and you got jnana yoga. You also have raja yoga, and these all have different forms as well within them. So for example, jnana yoga is the search for who am I, but it's done in a way of only Brahman is the true reality, and the other reality is illusion through relativity. And that works if you kind of have that Hindu mindset. But actually, it's so strange for me, right? Because Akash is a Hindu, but I didn't follow that Advaita Vedanta kind of route in Jnana Yoga. I actually followed the westernized version of that. And the westernized version of that is A Course in Miracles, where, only the child of God reality God's reality is the real reality, and the other one is the dream, and it's so different because I'm that Hindu Indian, and I didn't take that Hindu. I didn't do any of the yogas, I didn't do any of that. I did the westernized version because it just worked for me. It's so different. I wasn't really into Jesus, but my life brought Jesus into it when I was younger. So my mum, she's Indian, she insisted on her children going to a Christian school.
Really?
So she said, look, you were in the UK, so it's a Christian country. You must go. My kids must go. So that's when I was, 12 years old, and Jesus was very much a part of my life, And so when I studied the Course in Miracles in my 30s, it was just like having a big brother with me, walking me through it, teaching me what I am again. It's given me the memory of what I am again, and it kind of gives you that whole realization that it's all like a beautiful script that is just flowing through, and you've got nothing to worry about ever, and everything is falling into place, just the way it's supposed to. And all the suffering when I was younger, well, that was incredible as well, because that's what drove me to the end of suffering. Right? If I didn't suffer, then I wouldn't want to end it. Yeah. And so now I'm in a place where there's not really suffering, right? Because everything's coming from you, everything, and you just move into the holy forgiveness, the releasing of what you see through your perception, and you heal your mind. And what happens with perception is the higher self, it heals your mind, and it gives you it clears your distorted perception that you see in pain, and it gives you loving perception, and it replaces it with that, because that is what true vision is. It's love, it's unification, it's being with everything, and not being away from everything. And so it's such a beautiful journey. And I remember you were talking before about karma yoga, wasn't you? Or was it bhakti yoga? I think you said that you were talking about bhakti yoga, wasn't you? Which is also another beautiful way to realize the self, isn't it?
It's interesting too, if you look at underneath a Christian umbrella, all of the different churches, you have like some churches that are, wow, the music they're putting out is like a concert. Yeah. When I grew up Catholic, so going to one of those churches, I was like, wow. So as a child, like experiencing the different churches, would say, I think this is because we're all so different. Like what's good for you is good for you in the way that you are. And, in my journey now, I actually had to grieve my religion to truly find who Jesus was to me, like my Jesus. When you say my guru, and, I was mad and bitter for a long time because when I began to awaken to my true sense of soul, that I was more than a body, that I was an energetic being within this body, I was multidimensional. Yes. And I didn't agree with the separation and the discrimination kind of that I was sensing within my religion. And also, I have found a new Jesus in some of the ancient scriptures, like the Gnostic Gospels.
Of course.
And I see Jesus as like a Buddha, as did like one of the first books I read early on. Thich Nhat Hanh had wrote Living Buddha, Living Christ.
Yes.
And same thing. It's like everything you were just saying when you were talking about the different kinds of yoga and different ways to bring you inward. And I thought, it's just different language. But a lot of it still leads you to the same thing.
Different branches to the same tree trunk, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's like that,
yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, I just got the picture of an image of a tree. Yeah, it's different branches to that tree trunk. It's funny how we all have different ways to that as well, isn't it? Yeah. So the Jnana yoga, the one that I did, is known to be difficult because it's extremely intellectual, they say.
Or do you almost mean like a study? Or
so
like,
yes, I would say yes. So that it goes into the depths of the mind.
I love that.
It goes into like perception. Advaita Vedanta does talk about the body and the different layers. It talks about the physical body, then talks about the astral body, then it talks about the causal body, It also goes into the 5 koshas and the 5 different layers of the body. So it goes in, it's a lot of, like, you know what I mean? It's intellectually remembering what you are, you know, and of course in miracles as well, there's a lot of text, it's a lot of material.
Some people say it's a very Gnostic text.
It was beautiful, but it's not serene per se, you know, it's not like it's not a beautiful poem. It's honest. It's very honest with you. You know, it's a bit like a bulldozer. It goes into your ego and says, this is what you think you are. It's a course. It's a course, right? True. It's a course. It takes your time, it takes dedication to do that.
I tried it. And then I got the one for the dummies.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yes, it's so good, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's actually called, no, it's called The Course Done Easy.
Done Easy. Okay.
Easy. Yeah, it's a great version of it.
Yeah, a book I would recommend is Gary Renard's The Disappearance of the Universe. Absolutely incredible book. And most people actually go to that and learn with side by side with that and the course, which is, you know, such an easy way. He puts it in such a beautiful way. It's so easy to understand it all, I think. So it is a self-study, right? Yeah. So it's definitely not a religion. At the time, I actually didn't tell anyone. I didn't even tell my wife. I knew that something had come to me, which is going to transform me. And I didn't want anyone to kind of put me off it. You know, I wanted to do this because I knew it was best for me. And so I did it. I learned it in very different circumstances. I couldn't believe how it was. So I surrendered to Guruji and Jesus. And I got the course. The course is made up of 3 different elements. You've got the text, you've got the 365 workbook lessons, and you've got the manual for teachers. And so I actually was starting a new job. Guruji gave me a job which had a gentler surroundings, because the first job was very stressful. When I had lived a life without him, it was a very stressful, fast-paced job. So I requested something that would be a bit more gentler, and he put me into a gentler environment. And that new job was 45 minutes on the train. And so what I was told by Jesus and himself was, we're going to do the workbook lessons on the train. Right? I said, oh my goodness, really? So how? Because my life was so fast-paced, right? It's that London life, as we all know, the city life. You know, it's so fast-paced. You know, I'm not particularly a nun or a monk or that life. The lifestyle is a householder life, right? I've got kids as well, so it's a very different life. And so, you know, I learned. I would go through the workbook lesson on the train, and when I went to the new environment, the work, it would orchestrate the people around me in order to drum in the lesson that I've learned in the morning. And I mean, I can give you an example. Workbook lesson 34, I can see peace instead of this. So I remember reading it, and I remember coming into work, and I came into a meeting which was just everyone blaming me, right? So I'm in finance and everyone's blaming me. Oh, Akash, these numbers, why did you give them to that person? We haven't completed them here. The commentary's not finished, all this sort of stuff, right, in finance. And all attacks was on me. And I remember what I went through in the morning, right? I can see peace instead of this. And so I move into the holy forgiveness straight away. And I start forgiving the people and releasing the people in front of me, releasing myself for creating this situation, hiding the pain outside of me, right? So the pain actually is appearing as this trivial problem in finance. Really, the heart of the problem is the belief that I'm separate from my source. It's in chapter 3 of my book, that the secret dream, right, from A Course in Miracles. And so you forgive and you release it in your mind. I did it pretty fast, and that is performing the miracle. That's why it's A Course in Miracles. So that is performing the miracle. Really, I'm being taught by the inner guru. Wow. Right? How to do this, what we're doing here, right? And you do this for like a couple of years, right? I mean, it's dedication, but it's beautiful because every day was like an adventure. It's like, oh, what are you going to do today? You know, and sometimes it was challenging, right? And it's challenging, but you're given the tools. You're given the tools in order to use them, and you're also given the circumstances in order to use them. It's both going hand in hand. And actually, what you're doing is you are releasing the pain in your mind. Right, you're not doing it. You're giving what you see to the higher self, who does the releasing for you, right? Yeah. But you have to give it to it. You have to give it the permission to do it through free will, right? So you have to express the love. So it's you're innocent, whole in spirit, all is forgiven, all is released. I'm innocent, whole in spirit, all is forgiven, all is released. The separation from God never happened, and we're both in perfect oneness with our Creator eternally. And basically what you're saying is this, what I see in front of me is a lie. It's not true. You have differences and I have differences here. It looks like it, but in truth, we are in eternity. And when we're in eternity, there are no differences. You and me are the same. That's the truth, right? Yeah. So you are rejecting this situation to be real. You are saying this is false, right? That's all you're saying. You're not saying it's evil. You're not saying it's bad. You're not saying it's sinful. You're just saying it's a lie.
Hey listeners, did you know that Sense of Soul has a network of Lightworkers affiliates program? Now you get to work with one of our inspiring guests, and I'd like to introduce you to one of our affiliates.
Hey listeners, this is Jennifer from The Soul Experience and host of the podcast, The Soul Traveler. I'm here to tell you about the most profound method of inner work that somebody can do while on a spiritual path. It's called quantum healing hypnosis. In a single session, you will revisit your past lives. Your subconscious will come forward to scan your body, looking for blocked emotions and health concerns. And then your higher self will answer the most important life questions you have. Your session is audio recorded, so you can play back all of the advice from your higher self. And you know you can trust the advice because it's coming from that part of you that is connected to Source. So if you're ready to take the next step on your spiritual journey, then visit me online at thesoulexperiences.com and be sure to mention that Shanna from Sense of Soul referred you.
You can also go to mysenseofsoul.com and in the menu, look for the network of Lightworkers. Now back to our amazing guest.
Right. And that's where the peace comes, because you're not saying, oh, this person's doing it to me. You know it's coming from you because you know the depths of your mind, you know. And so actually, I remember after forgiving that, it doesn't always give you observable effects, it says. But most of the time, in my experience, there have been observable effects afterwards. People woke up, two of them came to me afterwards. One of them actually apologized. I couldn't believe it. Right. And the other one, they walked with me to get I wanted to get a coffee in the morning. And he offered me to buy me a coffee, you know. I just thought, this is so strange, you know. And it's because what you're doing is you're doing what you're doing is incredible, because what you're doing is you're releasing them from their chains that they put on themselves. You're releasing yourself from the chains that you've put on yourself. Right. And you're going back home. Right. Spirituality has different levels, but this is the one. So there's different levels. Some people like to manifest, right? So they love to manifest and they love to do all the things they want to do here. Right. And in doing that, that's wonderful. If you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. But it's still a dream that you're manifesting in. Right? It's not a real manifestation, right? So what I'm doing here with the Course in Miracles is it's the end of dreams. Right. You're walking back home and awakening into the Creator. That's what this journey leads back to. You know, it's self-realization. And so that's just one of the examples. Yeah. I did so many on the train. I just thought,
it's all set up divinely for you to receive and also like experience.
Yeah.
That's what happened with me with the Gnostic Gospels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. As I was reading them, everything in my physical life was starting to materialize to support what I was reading.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
And specifically in the Pistis Sophia, which is like one of the most hardest books, they say, of the Gnostic Gospels to grasp and understand. But yet I was receiving it through experiences to go along with what I was reading. So I had full understanding. So kind of like what you experienced, that happened to me throughout that entire book. And I'm writing a book about it because it was so incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, I can't even believe this, but it was happening, you know, in just divine ways as well. Like sometimes it was my dream, or sometimes it was like the most random thing. I mean, sometimes it was just connecting with the one person who had all these answers and she didn't even know she had the answers for me. You know what I mean? But everything she was saying.
Exactly. It connects you to the people.
It. Yeah. And actually one of them, Bridget Finclair, she teaches the Course of Miracles and the Pistis Sophia.
Wow. And also when you study these things, don't you, you think, am I going a little bit loopy?
Oh, absolutely.
And so actually, when I wrote this book, I said, look, I have to send it to Gary Renard. Gary Renard, obviously, he's like...
The one that wrote the book, The Disappearance.
Yeah, so he's the one who wrote that, right? And he's basically an important author, let's say, of A Course in Miracles. And I thought, I just have to send him a copy of this because I believe that everything that I'm doing is right. I know it inside.
Yes.
I just wanted to, send it to someone who definitely knows it and is more experienced. I sent it to him and he endorsed it. He said it's a very important book.
That felt wonderful.
Yeah, it just feels like surreal. And do you know what the most important thing is about this whole thing is the trust. You don't know where this is going. I never knew where this was going. Even now, I don't know, what's going to happen. But there's just trust that something is taking care of it all. And that's the most important thing. And that higher self is just so loving. It just takes care of you all the time. It's kind of like with my children, like my little daughter, she's 3 years old and my toddler's 18 months. And, when we're crossing the road, they look at me first of all, because they know that I know more than them and that I'm going to take care of them. Mm-hmm. Right. They also know that there's a huge amount of trust there for their dad, right? And that's the way that I am with the Holy Spirit, with Guruji, with Jesus. I don't do anything without knowing that that's what that wants, right? And in order to do that, you create good habits, right? Habits such as waking up in the morning, touching their feet with surrender, talking to them in the mind. I give it all to you. I just want you to know that I give it all to you. Habits such as reciting things in your mind, gratitude. Gratitude is I'm pouring it out all throughout the day. Just thank you. I'm so grateful that the Creator created me and nothing else created me. Just so grateful for A Course in Miracles and for all of the other parts of me that that have contributed. I mean, Helen Schuckman wrote the book. But obviously, she must have had an upbringing with parents, right? She would have had. She's on her journey. Everyone has slightly inputted into that in some way, right? Their surroundings and everything.
Yes.
Everyone, and it's a thankfulness to all of that.
So true.
And A Course in Miracles calls it the sonship. Son and daughter, we don't really go into gender because what we are has no gender, has no body, but it calls it the sonship. The sonship is all of us, right? We're all in this together, right? And we all contribute in so many different ways that we don't even realize, even the person who made the pen that she wrote down has contributed. It's something so small, isn't it? But everything has contributed to that. We've all done that. It's so beautiful when you realize that, and we're all together on it.
It's amazing what you're saying. Is amazing. I love that you're bringing this up because it's what I've experienced and you're putting words to it.
I was living a life very surrendered, very peaceful, right? Just with my family life, bringing up my children, my wife, the home, that sort of normal life. But I was off social media because it just wasn't something I wanted to do. But then I had to start it because we've got the book coming along, and I was instructed that you have to communicate with others because there's people out there that are relying on your messages, and also you will rely on them. It's the sonship. It's all working together, right? Don't close yourself off. Open yourself up, right? So we went onto social media. We're on 5 different platforms, and and sending videos every couple of days of just whatever comes through. Right, just send it out, send out posts, unifying everyone, that everything's going to be fine. It
sounds like you were an instrument and you really did truly surrender to the process that you
well, we can all do that, we can all do that. It's really about how much you want to suffer, because and that's really to do with conditioning, mental conditioning. We have created a world where we have acceptance to loss. And acceptance to loss is everywhere, right? So, for example, my character, it has certain qualities that it likes, but it has rejected the rest, right? In order to be individual, right? So Akash is a Hindu, but he's rejected the rest in order to be classified as a Hindu, right? So then he's accepting loss. Why is he accepting loss? Because he's rejected the rest, when really he's all of them, right? Another example, Akash he's an accountant. He's chosen one qualification, right? Rejected the rest, right? And also, when the others talk about what you selected causes you pain, right? So basically, a doctor can say, oh, accountants, it must be so boring. Do you see that there's pain there coming at me because I've selected being an accountant, right? And the same with, Hinduism. If someone was to knock down a temple and build something of their own over it, right? Acceptance of pain, it comes to me. And so we accept it, don't we? But we don't release and forgive it. We don't forgive and release what we created as separation.
Our
right?
own limitations.
Yeah, we don't release it and forgive it. We just accept it. We say loss is okay. It's part of the world.
That's what we
Actually, it's not really that way. You've made it like this. You can unify with everything, right? It's a mindset.
Perception. Yes.
It's a mindset. You can not accept loss. You can. I forgive and release everything, right? The other, like a toast. If I wanted to eat toast and my wife's eating the last toast, if there's a subtle bit of pain there, I forgive and release it. I do because this is acceptance of no pain and no suffering, because what we are does not suffer. What we are does not suffer. It doesn't suffer. God did not create suffering. So if there is even a slight bit of pain, it's a forgive and release. It speeds up this journey. Because if you don't forgive and release it, it comes again in a different form in your life.
We didn't come here with an ego. Look at your 3-year-old. She might be starting to get her ego a little bit. I'm telling you, I want this. No, I don't want that. You didn't come into this earth with this voice that tells you you're not good enough or that you're limited. First few years of my youngest daughter, I had lost my mama, which I was very close with, my dad, and she watched me grieve so much, and she had no understanding or experience of her own for herself other than this. And all I had ever told her is that we were infinite, just our physical body is not, but yet our energy is. So she knew nothing different. And what was really just amazing, children are amazing, it can be our greatest teachers, she would remind me in my grief that he'll always be with you. His energy doesn't die. At 5, she reminded me of this because my humanness and my ego was grieving so much of the loss. And she didn't know anything different than what I had told her. It's so interesting, the narratives that we tell ourselves about loss and about
the conditioned mind.
Wonder if you were never told that you were separate from anything,
you would be,
your children may get that opportunity, right? I mean, I have kids from different generations. My oldest, it was not like that with them, but my youngest I was. And there's a difference, in her wisdom.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The education system doesn't really do that. It teaches us the opposite, doesn't it? And sometimes teaching the opposite is good. Having gone through it myself, oh no, it can't be that, surely, and so then you go inside to see the truth, don't you? And the truth is that no, we're not separate from anything. It's
it does make you wonder what the future will be like for people who are brought up knowing that they have that spark within. I'm sure they're still going to have challenges, but what does the future look like if we were all awakened to this understanding that we are consciousness, not separated from each other?
That would be beautiful. I think it starts with yourself doing your inner work. And once we do that, knowing perception, your perception shifts to unification, and that inner work is so important, because the ego mind, it loves to keep you looking outwards, right? The ego mind has actually designed your body, right? So notice your eyes are looking outwards. Your nose, it smells from aromas from the outside. Your mouth, it brings objects from the outside in, right? Your ears, they hear sounds from the outside. Skin is for outside sensation, right? It's all been designed by the ego to look out, right? We are not out there. We are inside. It's that inner work that we need to do. You know, it's an incredible journey. Your outside perception shifts into such a beautiful viewpoint when you do your inner work. When you do your inner work, you just reflect that on the outside. You know, when you see problematic behavior on the outside, you don't go through panic. You don't go through anxiety. You don't go through conflict, because there's a level of understanding that comes through you. This has come from you. You have a perception problem. If you think there's pain, it's your perception. It's your way of looking at it, basically. And it's basically just a trigger to say, come on, come to me, let's release this, right? And once you do this all the time, it's such a peaceful life. It's a wonderful, wonderful, peaceful life. And you shift through realities and dimensions, and your external surroundings are changing to give you the light of what you are. They reflect the light of what you are. It's so beautiful.
I really feel like I've connected you in a way that is so familiar to my experience of what I've just gone through as well.
Yeah.
And again, it's through different paths. And this is what's so beautiful, I think, and so divine.
Actually, men and women, they have a balance of masculine and feminine energy, right? So the males, you know, they have about 51% males energy, but then they have 49% of female energy, and it's the opposite with the females, right? And in society, it conditions us to swing that and believe otherwise, right? So like men are told to be more manly, to dress a certain way, to be a certain way, right? And so you shift into that side and you forget and lose out from the beautiful feminine side. You can see that with men. You know, I go to the gym, I see it all the time. You know, they're not very in touch with it. And opposite, you also see that with women as well. You know, they do that as well. And so keeping that balance is really important, you know, and that balance, and also appreciating both sides. Despite you having the organs of one, you appreciate that, the energy part of it, you know, the fact that you are both. So we have the personal identity, and being our personal identity, you know, we affiliate with a personal God because we have a personal identity, right? And so if we want to use a woman as a god or a male as a god, or I've got a friend who's on Facebook who actually surrenders his life to a mountain. Yeah, and he lives there, right? And that's that's the non-ego part of him, right? And he just lives there, resides there, and is at one with that.
Like, you know, that's his inner guru, even.
You can choose. Everyone's allowed to be different because we've made ourselves different, right? And so what the Holy Spirit does is it uses what we made as different to unify us all and show us that we're not different.
Yeah. You know, I always tell people when I have them on my Reiki table, you know, I said, there's no, you know, specific religion. You want to call in Mickey Mouse? Call in Mickey Mouse for you. Whatever you want. This is your journey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your
I mean, on the surface though, I still don't reject the religions. You know, on the surface, Akash is still a Hindu. You know, although I know that it's beyond religion. Yeah. There are things that would stand out if you didn't do certain things. You know, it depends on how you want to live your life, I guess. You know, like if I didn't celebrate Diwali, it would be quite strange, to be honest.
So, you know, there's the earthly part of us that is very deeply rooted.
But mentally, you know that I'm not of here. I'm not of here. I'm not of here. Right? And that's what keeps everything at peace.
Dude, I still celebrate Christmas. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't. I fully agree.
And Easter. I love Easter. Yeah.
Right. But, I definitely have told my children the truth. Even, we celebrate Thanksgiving, but I'm like, don't think that the Native Americans are thankful, honey. I mean, this is not the truth. Let's be real. But, you're right. That's something else that brings me back to Thich Nhat Hanh in that book. He said, losing one's religion would be a travesty. A travesty.
Yeah, definitely. And notice the principles of religions, they all say that there is a God.
Yeah.
There is something. Right. So there is a commonality between them all. Well, in that sense, there is a God, there is a higher power. They all have different versions of it, don't they? So, but spirituality unites it all, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The higher consciousness. Once you just connect with that, there's no denying.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a river, isn't it? So you've got the river here, a river here with all the religions, and they flow into the ocean. That it's the same water in all of them. That is the enrichment of spirituality. It's in all of them, but it flows into that one ocean, and that one ocean is the spirituality, isn't it? And it depends how you approach it, I think. And it's funny when I see other religions, I don't look at them as separate anymore. I look for, this is I recall this. I remember. When you know truth, you see truth. And you love it. You love them even though they appear different. You still loved it.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. I find you to have a lot of wisdom that you've discovered from your inner guru.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And lots of love to your family and to all the listeners as well.
Can you tell everybody where they can find your book?
Yeah, so it's introducing you to your own perfection, and it can be found on Amazon. It can be found anywhere really that you can sell a book. And you could find me on social media as Akash Sky.awakening. And I'd love to connect with you all there. Yeah, and just to receive you.
Well, thank you so much, Akash. It was so nice to meet you.
Same with you. Have a lovely day.
Thanks for listening to Sense of Soul podcast, and thanks to our special guests for joining me. If you want more of Sense of Soul, check out my website at www.mysenseofsoul.com, where you can work with me one-on-one or help support Sense of Soul podcast by donating to my coffee fund. Thanks for listening.